Sampah plastik merupakan salah satu masalah terbesar di Indonesia. Sampah plastik ini mencemari sungai dan airnya masuk ke lautan, dan ini tentu saja sangat-sangat membahayakan lingkungan dan juga kesehatan. Dan tahukah Anda bahwa 68 sungai strategis di Indonesia semuanya sudah dicemari oleh sampah plastik dan mikroplastik. Nah, tentu kita harus melakukan sesuatu terhadap ini, harus mengubah kebiasaan kita tidak membuang sampah sembarangan, tapi kenyataannya inilah yang terjadi. Nah, Insight with Desi Anwar saat ini berada di kawasan mangrove di Denpasar Selatan untuk melihat kegiatan yang dilakukan oleh 3 bersaudara dalam usaha mereka untuk membersihkan sungai-sungai dari sampah plastik agar tidak masuk ke lautan. Siapa mereka? Insight with Desi Anwar akan segera menemui mereka.
Persoalan sampah plastik yang bermuara ke sungai hingga lautan memang menjadi persoalan yang dihadapi oleh dunia saat ini. Keberadaan sampah-sampah plastik yang tak terurai di laut pun berisiko merusak biota perairan dan merusak ekosistem makhluk hidup. Hal itulah yang membuat Bencheghib bersaudara, Gary, Sam, dan Kelly membuat organisasi pembersih lingkungan di Bali bernama Sungai Watch. Ketiga bersaudara asal Prancis ini pun kerap melakukan aksi pengumpulan sampah plastik dari saluran sungai untuk mencegahnya masuk ke aliran laut. Ketika videonya bersama adik laki-lakinya, Sam, saat mendayung 2 kayak yang terbuat dari botol plastik di Sungai Citarum pada 2017 silam, viral di media sosial. Keduanya kemudian muncul lagi di tahun 2019 dengan sebuah gerakan bernama Sungai Watch yang juga dibentuk bersama sang kakak Kelly Bencheghib. Melalui gerakan ini, mereka menguji coba berbagai penghalang sampah atau trash barrier yang berguna untuk mencegah sampah plastik mengalir ke laut sambil melakukan aksi bersih-bersih sungai dari sampah plastik.
Ya, hai Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
Gary.
Hi, Desi.
And Sam. Ya, kita sekarang berjumpa dengan 3 Bencheghib bersaudara ya, dan mereka memiliki gerakan yang dinamai Sungai Watch. Dan ternyata selama ini mereka sangat-sangat ya committed untuk membersihkan sungai-sungai khususnya yang ada di Bali. Oke, Kelly, Gary, and Sam. Sungai Watch. Okay, before we talk about Sungai Watch and about the movement and what you do, just tell me a little bit where we are, what you guys are doing, and I see there's some activities at the back, and just describe to me what is happening here.
Yes, so right here, we are in the mangroves of South Bali, about 10 minutes away from the international airport, Murai in Pemogan, Denpasar Selatan, in the mangroves, and we are currently doing a cleanup. This is part of our daily activity here. Yes,
like every day?
every single day apart from Sundays. This is a true emergency in the mangrove South Bali where, it's like a plastic apocalypse. We came here 2 years ago and there was about a meter worth of plastic, so you couldn't see any of the roots. Now this is 2 years of daily cleanup, and we've collected around more than 200 tons just here alone of plastic pollution.
200 tons, and wow, this is amazing. where does the trash come from? And why is it even when you're doing a daily cleanup, there's still trash coming here?
I think we're really destroying our planet quicker than we can fix it. Although cleanup is really disaster relief, it's a bandage solution. We need to stop upstream. So on this one river in Juatsari, we have these floating barriers. That's the symbol of Sungai Watch, to stop plastics before it goes into the ocean. And on this one single river, we have 8 of these, but it's impossible to stop the entire flow. We're consuming so much. The landfill here in central Bali, Suwung, is closing down, and still too many people are throwing their trash inside of the river. So.
Okay, so this river actually goes into the ocean.
Yes, this is really the last fence, natural fence, and we're about maybe 500 meters before Benoa Gulf, where the airport is.
And these people, are they volunteers? Are they part of Sungai Watch? I mean,
this is our full-time team. This is the mangrove team. They work every day. They're salary employed, and they are true heroes and warriors on the front line.
Okay, and let me tell us a little bit about your background. And you're born and raised in Bali, but obviously you're not originally from Bali. Just for us, because ini merupakan sesuatu yang menurut saya itu sangat-sangat inspiratif. Ini anak-anak muda yang mereka menyumbang tenaganya, pikirannya, dan juga energinya untuk melakukan sesuatu yang baik. Nah, saya rasa kita perlu kenal satu persatu. Mungkin let's start with you, Kelly. And you are the eldest of the Bencheghib siblings, okay? And Sam, you're the youngest. And Gary, you're in the middle. So tell me a little bit about how you, as a family, started this amazing and incredible movement.
So I think it was very, very organic. We were super grateful that our parents decided to move to Indonesia when we were 8, 10, and 12 years old. So
what year was this?
A decision to change lifestyles, to enable us to discover Asia. And I think they had fallen in love with Bali. And they transmitted that love for Indonesia as we grew up, and I think we were so grateful to be able to enjoy the beach at an early age. That's where we would go before going to school, after school, and it was just an amazing playground.
Okay, so how many years have you all lived in Bali now?
Since 2005.
2005, so you've almost 20 years, okay? Wow. Okay, and that's how it started, and how did it?
Just seeing the beaches being covered in plastic, so just observing and wanting to do something about it. The 3 of us, then we would invite friends, we would invite communities. It kind of built just as like a Facebook movement back then.
How long ago was this when you first started picking up your first trash, do you remember?
Over 15 years ago. So it's really been a fight that we've been going through for quite a long time. It's kind of evolved over time into more awareness campaigns, which with the Citarum campaign and Sungai Watch really started 2 years ago. It was in the midst of COVID, and I think it was a perfect time for us to kind of reflect on our previous actions and seeing how we can create even more change. So going back to our on-the-ground roots, and so that's when we started Sungai Watch.
Okay, well, that's incredible. So when you first started picking up the first, you must have been very young, Sam.
Yeah, I was 12.
And what were, it's incredible at such a young age you have such a high awareness of taking care of the environment. What was going on through your head at that time, and when?
I think at such a young age there's only so much that you can do, and when you see your home beach, your home island be so polluted, the only thing that you think you can do is maybe pick it up. So with Gary and Kelly, we just started picking up trash on our beaches, and very quickly we realized that that's not enough. Plastic will come back every day from rivers. So with Gary in 2017, we Googled what is the most polluted river in the world, and saw that river was the Citarum River.
Absolutely.
In Java.
Yeah, and I still remember that, and you were rowing on the boat in plastic bottles. I mean, this is like an incredible image. You have a country as beautiful as Indonesia. I mean, obviously you love Indonesia, as you say, but we are polluting it. So what were your thoughts, Gary? I mean, this is a movement that you want to really create a big impact, okay?
Yeah, completely. I think it really started from a simple idea. I think after seeing the Citarum, after seeing the impact that we're creating to these most beautiful alleyways, our rivers, we really felt the need of doing something so simple And so it really started with a trash fence, a barrier, in the back of our parents' house. You know, every day we would clean up that barrier. We were by ourselves. We would bring the trash to our parents' garage. Very quickly it started to smell.
Yeah, I can see, you know, it smells quite strong here.
And, you know, and then from there we started to raise a little bit of money through sponsors. One of the, I think the silver linings of COVID was that community was coming together. The beaches of Bali were closed. And so on every said Friday, we would get 100 to 300 people cleaning up with us. And that's really where Sungai Watch, you know, initially started. And today, you know, we're cleaning every day more than 200 rivers.
200 rivers in Bali or all the way
Bali
to
and Banyuwangi.
Banyuwangi.
The idea is really to scale this project to Indonesia's most polluted rivers and really bring this project global as well very soon.
Now we know that, you know, Indonesia, we have beautiful beaches, we have beautiful rivers, but we know that we also own some of the most polluted rivers, as you mentioned. But during your activities, did you manage to find out, you know, how and where and the flow of, you know, the trash, and so that you can strategize on methods of cleaning it, so that you feel that it actually makes a difference? Is there and any of you can answer this, is there some kind of, from that way we can learn lessons about how to clean up and also how to keep our rivers clean?
Definitely. I mean, I think because of the barrier and because it's such a visible reminder of our consumption, we know when we place a barrier what area is catching more plastic.
Okay, so the barrier this is what you do. You put up barriers. Okay.
So we put up a barrier.
Why and how? Why and to what?
Sure. So most really, when a city is very populated, we know that will generate more plastics. Right now, we're just south of Pemogan Denpasar, the most populated area in Bali. And that's where we have a large concentration of our barriers and where we catch the most amount of trash. The reason that so much trash is flowing down our rivers is because there's unfortunately a lack of waste management in some places around Indonesia. And therefore, a lot of communities will throw their waste on a riverbank because there's no other solution. And with the rain and the heavy rainfall, that tumbles into the river, makes its way downstream and into the ocean. Unless there's a barrier there, that plastic will reach the ocean. And in 2 years, we've now collected over 1 million kilos. So in terms of impact, I think we're really seeing that, you know, the barriers are impactful.
Okay, there's a barrier there, but there's still plastic here. Why is that?
Actually, because we're in the mangroves, some of it is also coming from the ocean when the tides rise. And that's why we've been cleaning this place every single day, because plastic's actually coming from the ocean as well. So in this hotspot right now, it's coming from both ways.
Yeah. Wow.
But
yeah, that's why this is like you said, it's an apocalypse. This is a Sisyphean, you know, this is an effort that you have to do every day, but, you know, at some point, you know, there has to be a change in behavior. Tell me a little bit about the vision, mission of Sungai Watch itself. How is it organized, and what kind of impact that do you want to make, and, you know, who you've been sort of connecting with and collaborating with?
Definitely. You know, Sungai Watch won a mission to protect rivers, starting in Indonesia on our island home, Bali, by deploying simple solutions. That's the core. You know, if we really want to see scale, then it has to be simple. The barriers are made from local materials. But, you know, when we look at once we collect the trash and actually process it and recycle it. So we've been working with a lot of engineers throughout the years to develop the barrier designs. You know, it's very simple to place the barrier, have a team clean it up. It becomes more of a hotspot where, you know, people go to a certain location. You know, through the 2 years of doing this project, we're realizing that, you know, there's a lot of illegal open dumps along riverbanks. And so that's a little bit like what Sam has mentioned. And then you have these, you know, you'll go through a river, we do drone aerial mapping, we physically walk up the rivers, only to see that, you know, behind almost every household, there's just a giant that's been accumulating for.
So it's basically it's just the rivers becoming trash, you know, can or for the people. Yeah. Just quickly tell me about the barriers. what is it made of? How does it work? And how do you choose the right spot where to put the barriers in? I mean, you said you've put how many barriers now? Around
More than 180
180, and how many rivers?
in about 120 rivers.
And 120 rivers. Tell me a little bit about that mechanism and how does it work?
So it's really made from local materials. We have them made from, depending on the width of the river, it's made from singular elements that are attached together through a wire cable. And this barrier that we have in this river here is made from PVC pipes, a metal frame. It can be made from blue drums, all really locally sourced materials. We've been experimenting with nets, with bamboo, with tires. But the idea is that anybody can just go and weld it themselves and really implement them. So I guess really where we know. Oftentimes we're using nature. So sometimes you have two trees along a riverbank on the left and right side. That's a perfect place to wire the barrier. We don't want to put any reinforced concrete foundations as to the barriers are fully mobile.
Yeah, and the fish and
and
they're not disturbed by the existence of the barriers.
Exactly not. So they sit about 30 centimeters to 70 centimeters, fully customizable depending on the size of a river. And the idea is that we're not damaging any of the coastal ecosystem or riverine wildlife. The idea is really to
protect the water there and also to stop the plastic going on. But why? What's the idea of the barriers? How did you all come up with the trash is going and so we need barriers? How did that come about and what's the actual purpose?
I think it's actually back to our observation on once it's on the beach, trash is actually, you can see it's already decomposed with the salt, the sun, and if we want to be able to recycle it as much as possible, it's way easier to stop it at the river before it gets into the ocean, and it's just harder to collect. And as Sam was saying just earlier, it's also very visual. It's kind of a really good daily reminder that there's no thing as out of sight, out of mind when it comes to trash. Like, yes, people tend to put it by the side of the road, and then with the rain, it tends to go straight into the river. But because we always place that as by bridges, by river walks, it's just really serves as an awareness tool. So as Gary was saying, we always learn by doing. It's been 2 years of an immense...
So has it been experimenting? What works, what doesn't
so
work?
much, yeah. It's very
so whose idea was it? Came up with the barriers? I mean,
as Gary was saying, there's a lot of existing technologies, so it's very we just really tried different things that were existing. We kind of adapted to valley rivers. We focus a lot on rivers that are about this width, but we also focus a lot on irrigation channels. Just because these happen to be in the more residential areas as well. So again, as an awareness tool, it's just very, very powerful. And we use the barriers as a data collection point. So in order to be able to then kind of advise the government on where they should focus their next efforts on, we have daily numbers of how much each barrier collected, before and after pictures. And on a quarterly basis, we really sit down with each head of villages, each head of even regions, really just to be able to kind of find a longer term solution to what we're trying to solve on a daily basis.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the data you collected. How much does each barrier collect and what sort of trash, and then
So on an average, with our 180 barriers, we collect up to 2,000 kilos of plastic. So the average is very dependent on the area. And because the barriers are very easily movable, if a barrier tends to not catch as much, because our goal is to have as high impact, we can easily move it to another location. Because as we scout rivers and we try to find the best locations for these barriers, sometimes our hypotheses and assumptions are not what we thought they were. So that's the beauty of the technology, is that we can easily just
move it
and find a better location in terms of catching. So that's where the data is used for. It's used for a government.
So you've been collecting data for the last 2 years?
2 years. So we do have a really nice database now. So now it's just a matter of spending the proper time and analyzing it as much as possible. I think we have so many analysis ideas that we want to push forward.
And who have you shown the data to? And I'm interested to know what's the feedback, response. Are they kind of like, wow, this is, amazing, luar biasa, and then is it followed up by
It's a great question. We usually get a lot of thumbs ups and luar biasa type of comments. We share our data on a yearly basis. So not only the amount that we collect per barrier, And for instance, the number one item that we collect are plastic bags. And we all know that there's been a ban on plastic bags the past few years. So that's exactly where we use what we have and see on the ground, and we kind of push for stronger implementations and even stronger legislation as well. So we share our data on a yearly basis, and then through social media we tend to do a bit more reach outs to just get quicker impact as well. So far, I think with Indonesia having a very, very ambitious objective of reducing marine plastic pollution, I think it's all about working.
Seeing is believing, though, isn't it?
Exactly. So really using that to show over time. I think we have 2 years worth of data as we're continuing to expand and having a wider database range as well in different places. I really hope that we can see a drastic reduction and again, maybe focus specific cleanup efforts in the places where we'll see data continuing to be stagnant or increase, unfortunately.
Okay, so it's amazing. In 2 years, maybe what kind of impact have you felt, and what are people listening, and are they sort of, let's do something about this together? And how has Sungai Watch itself in the 2 years? How has it developed, organizationally? I mean, there are 3 of you, obviously. So Sam, what's your role?
So I'd say I'm more partnerships and fundraising. So going back and forth between Indonesia and New York. And then actually recently we're also launching a new enterprise to turn plastics into products. So within that enterprise, we also have roles as well, but we were sort of all carrying different hats.
Okay. Well, tell me about the partnership, and how do you do it, and how do you convince people to, give funds, and then what do you do with the funds, and how does the Sungai Watch itself actually get funding?
Well, as a nonprofit, we rely on donations and supports and partnerships. So every barrier can be sponsored by a company or an individual. So we currently have 180 barriers installed throughout Bali and Java.
All sponsored?
All sponsored by companies or individuals. And that's really how we're able to pay for our team, pay for our overhead.
And how has the team grown now? How many?
So currently we have 88 full-time staff.
88 full-time?
And in 2 years, we've now collected over 1 million kilos. So in terms of impact, I think we're really seeing that the barriers are impactful. We're able to collect a lot of trash, and hopefully through the data, we see that the barrier is catching less and less plastics with the work that we're doing upstream with the communities.
So this is a full-time thing?
Full-time thing, very much.
That's amazing.
We've cleaned up this one river not so far from here, also in Pemogan, with the local government, with the local desa, with the Karung Taruna, with the local youth. And in 7 months, we're seeing fish come back.
So what sort of funding, how much in terms of funding do you need? And also, I mean, can anybody in Indonesia can, donate, and also how much does it cost to, do this initiative?
So this barrier is a bigger barrier. This will cost $6,000 for a sponsorship of 1 year. That pays for the building of the barrier, the collection of it every single day, and then the sorting of the trash in our facilities. We have a smaller barrier that's more directed towards the Subak system, the irrigation channels. That's $3,500 a year. But we also, don't just have people that help us through sponsorships of barriers, but people can donate, 1,000 rupiah, 5,000 rupiah.
And where can they do this? Do you have a platform?
Through our website.
You can, feel free to share with us.
I mean, so through our website, www.sungaiwatch.com, we have a donate button there. We also have a monthly giving option, which has been growing. We're building our community of monthly donors. But really, this is work that, needs money. We need more equipment, more machinery on the upper hand to sort and wash the trash. Our team is growing every day as we're expanding throughout different regions of Indonesia. So we're definitely very grateful for every donation.
88 in space of 2 years. That's incredible. You're also creating jobs. I mean, that's a wonderful thing. A little bit about the partners in New York. I mean, how do you kind of pitch the stories? I'm sure the photos are very impactful. And how and where are they from normally, your funders?
Right now, most of our funders are coming from overseas. They're coming from Europe. They're coming from the US. But these companies are companies that are more sustainability driven and that sell products, and they say in their marketing, for every product that we sell, we remove 1 kilo or 5 kilos of plastics through a partnership with Sungai Watch. So that is really the approach. It's more, selling marketing for overseas companies, but that enables us to create more impact. Clean Rivers here, we put their logo on the barrier. We provide them a quarterly report of how their barrier is performing, and then we send them, this shocking visual of the before and after. I think another way that we found that has really helped is social media. Through this shocking imagery, through showing the positive stories of the before and afters.
But then you said that you're developing products, right, from the trash you collect. Is this something in the pipeline? Or have you actually produced anything? Or?
We've produced a few samples. I think that's launching. We're hoping early May. That's going to be our launch of the first Sungai Watch recycled plastic products.
And you collaborate with whom and who are helping?
So that's
you
actually
making?
all in-house. It's working on the back burner. We haven't released too much yet.
Okay, you will have to share with us.
But we'll
because
definitely
I
want
think
to.
This would be interesting. Gary, we've met with, Sungai Watch and just your role in it and, your dreams, and how have you managed to make it grow, and the kind of impact that you've seen now and then you hope to see in the future? Tell us.
Yes, so I'm more operational at Sungai. Pretty much when I can be in the river, I'm in the river with the teams, doing gas ball missions. So, when we do have emergencies like this, thinking up of crazy ideas, calling on Sam and Kelly to see whether or not, we have the budgets available. But yeah, I think we've really been driven around taking impossible missions, and like this mangrove, right? This mangrove that we've been cleaning for 2 years, we've cleaned more or less 22 hectares. And now after cleaning it, quite rudimentally, we're seeing these mangrove shoots come back. We've cleaned up this one river, not so far from here, also in Pemogan, with the local government, with the local desa, with the Karung Taruna, with the local youth. And in 7 months, we're seeing fish come back. And I think this is the stories that we want to scale throughout the world, obviously with a big focus here. We have, maybe 5 to 10 years of really, really hard work to go in Java, river by river. We've scouted, some of the dirtiest rivers in the world over there, from the Brantas to the Ciliwung, to Central Java River, to these Jember rivers that are contributing to plastic in Bali. And so a big part of our focus is going to be to scale up the mission there, make it economically viable for, local groups to embrace the Sungai Watch philosophy, and then really look at, bringing the project global. I was just in, Manila, also is one of the biggest plastic contributors to the ocean, arguably more than Indonesia, the Philippines. Very similar archipelago islands and the way that it's structured. So, really looking at bringing very simple solutions like the barriers, like the gas ball mentality, all for true impact.
Yeah, and in Indonesia we've got lots of rivers, right? So how do you, I know obviously you start with Bali because this is where you live, but how do you kind of, decide, okay, which river we're going to focus on, and then how to expand it, and also what are the main challenges? Because, if we look at the trash that you mentioned, the sachets and probably, from shampoo or plastic cups or plastic, it's to do with habits, people's habits. And cleaning is one thing, but if habits don't change, it's going to be a problem. You're going to be cleaning this every day, and it's not going to, do much. How do you feel about that?
Truly, I think, again, I think we've been cleaning this up, and very quickly it gets filled up again. It will come back tomorrow, there'll be more. And so I think it's really keeping the momentum going, focusing on smaller wins that just keeps us motivated to tackle this problem upstream. Where open dumps exist, looking for local solutions. One of the solutions that's been apparent here in Indonesia is the bank sampah waste bank model. There's more than 1,000 all throughout the archipelago. They're very locally focused, where every 2 weeks, every month, local women from the local Banjar, local RT RW can come and bring their trash for, debit incentive that they can spend at a local market. And I think that's a perfect model that we want to try to scale with local partners, So I think it's really been, how can we create a network of local collaborators? We cannot do this alone.
No, absolutely. There has
we-
to be an ecosystem that supports all this. And you've been working with local communities as well. Kelly, perhaps tell us a little bit about your role and also how would you like to see Sungai Watch, the role in society, also where you would like to see Sungai Watch in the future.
So my role, I would say, is more of making sure fundraising as well. I'm spending my time between Europe and Indonesia. So also like trying to find the fundraisers in Europe.
Has it been challenging? Has it been difficult?
It's been, luckily I think COVID has been, in terms of silver lining, I think people have realized the importance of keeping your environment clean. And because we have so many visuals and those uplifting stories, I think that is such an easy sell if you can use it. It's not
Especially when you're in Europe, you think like, wow.
Exactly, but for a lot of people it feels like it's so far away, it's not an issue they should focus on, but then when you remind them that the ocean is a global resource that we all need to protect.
We're all living on the same planet.
Exactly,
Yeah.
then people get that connection aspect again. And I focus a lot on the data aspect, so really trying to push more of the upstream changes. I think pictures are one thing, data are another important item. That data does not lie. Like when you have concrete evidence and you can compare it over time, I think it enables us to tell a stronger story as well.
Okay, wow, it's wonderful. I'm looking at this trash and you're collecting them and then putting them in plastic bags, and I think you need to show me what do we do with the trash, and then also we can see, from the trash, where do they come from? And then I think this is something that we can learn, is that who are the main culprits behind it, and what kind of products, because I think, we live in a modern world. Everything is plastic, everything in sachets, and it's different, if we all still eat from banana leaves and then we can throw them and it's very organic. But a lot of that, we waste so much, we use so much products, and then they all end up as trash. And unfortunately, here in Indonesia, there's still this habit of throwing things in the river. The river should actually be something that we all enjoy. This is supposed to be a tourist destination, and I can't imagine anybody wants to go here if it's horrible and smelly. So will you show me what you do with the trash?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Let's go
Okay,
to
all
One of our
right.
stations.
Okay, so we have to go somewhere else, at the sorting station. Okay, kami akan segera kembali masih dengan 3 Bencheghib bersaudara dari Sungai Watch.
Styrofoam is a big concern for us because we just have piles and piles of them. And again, we're very much focused now this year on trying to find a way of upcycling it.
Insight with Desi Anwar kembali dari Bali, Denpasar. Saya ditemani oleh 3 Bencheghib bersaudara, anak-anak muda yang sangat peduli lingkungan. Mereka tinggal di Bali dan selama 2 tahun terakhir ini telah mendirikan sebuah gerakan yang namanya Sungai Watch. Dan Sungai Watch ini mereka telah membersihkan lebih dari 100 sungai dari sampah, dan rata-rata sampah yang didapati di sungai-sungai itu adalah sampah-sampah plastik. Nah, kita tentu saja sangat bangga memiliki anak-anak muda seperti ini yang peduli untuk mengambil, membersihkan sungai, dan saya rasa ini perlu menjadi contoh yang baik ya bagi kita semua. Tapi sampah-sampah plastik ini perlu kita ingat, ini merupakan sampah yang kita semua hasilkan, sampah dari rumah tangga, sampah dari industri, dan tentu saja ini jumlahnya luar biasa. Tapi apa yang mereka lakukan terhadap sampah-sampah itu? Kita sekarang berada di tempat penyortiran sampah, dan ini juga merupakan suatu inisiatif yang didirikan oleh 3 Bencheghib bersaudara. Ada Kelly, ada Gary, ada Sam, semua masih muda, masih penuh dengan tenaga, dan tentu saja harus kita dukung ya upayanya. Oke, sekarang mungkin bisa cerita Kelly, Gary, dan Sam, kita berada di mana, untuk apa tempat ini, dan apa-apa saja kegiatan yang dilakukan di sini. Ayo, siapa yang memulai?
So,
I think so. As you saw earlier, we were in the mangroves where there's a lot of plastic. we're cleaning up the mangroves, we're cleaning up 180 barriers on a daily basis, but that's half the battle.
Half the battle.
It's half the battle.
Okay.
Once trash has been collected, it needs to be sorted. So this is one of our sorting facilities. This is the smallest sorting facility we have. But
How many do you have?
we have 7.
7.
7
okay.
spread out throughout Bali and Banyuwangi. But this one, what's symbolic about it is that it's fully made from plastic collected from the rivers.
Okay, when you say fully made, are we talking about, you know?
So the floor, this is all made from cups. So the single-use plastic cups and plastic bags. So it's a combination of both. And what's really great is that we can collect plastics in the rivers and turn it into value.
Okay, sorry, and I'm looking at the fence, colorful, but they look like plastic sandals.
That is sandals that has been sorted by color and put into this fence. But I think what I was saying is that this is really half the battle. We have to sort into all the different materials that we're collecting in the rivers. So we sort into 30 different types of materials.
30?
30 different types. And once that has been sorted, we also have to sort by color. And only then can we give value to every piece of plastics.
Okay, 30 different. Can you tell us, 5 or 10 of them? What are they?
So I mean,
The
there's
mind boggles, you
It
have
is.
30 different types.
and obviously some are recyclable, some are not.
Okay, give me examples.
So for example, the most recyclable piece of plastic is your plastic water bottle that's made from PET plastics. That has a very high value in the recycling stream here in Indonesia, to be turned into new bottles or to be turned into yarn for clothing. Then there's HDPE, which is hard plastics, your shampoo bottles. That's also very recyclable. On the other hand, there's styrofoam. We find a lot of styrofoam because it's so buoyant and floats on the surface of the water. That is not recyclable. It is recyclable in certain areas in Indonesia. We have found it very difficult to recycle, as well as plastic bags. Plastic bags is what we collect the most of. Roughly 30% of what we collect is plastic bags, and that's not recyclable, unfortunately, in Indonesia. However, we're able to find ways in-house to turn it into these sheets. So at Sungai Watch, we're turning plastic bags into these similar sheets to this. And so that's the products that we'll be launching very soon.
Okay, and of course, there has to be a place where you manufacture these sheets, right? And so this is something that, is another step.
It's another step.
In creating value
That's
out of
right.
plastic. Tell me a little bit more about, the different types of rubbish, different types of plastic, particularly plastic trash that you collect. What is the most of, and in terms of, where they come from? Maybe you can share with us.
So I think one reason why we're so focused on sorting everything in different is not only just to better understand the type of plastic, so then we can kind of push for stronger legislation as well, but it's also to avoid throwing the trash into landfill. It's one thing for us to clean it up, and the easiest step for us would have been to just send it to the government and for it to disappear.
Do we like cling films?
Cling films, like for your clothing, when you buy a new piece of clothes, or
okay, wraps, plastic wraps.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're not recyclable.
They're recyclable, but in a different way. We find a lot of sandals, and surprisingly, we find more left feet.
People throw sandals in.
I think they don't throw it. It's sometimes
they
maybe
get
a
carried
tide,
away.
carried away, or they decide to leave their sandals on the side of a walk, and then rain comes in. But so we find more left sandals than right feet sandals. And then styrofoam is a big concern for us because we just have piles and piles of them. And again, we're very much focused now this year on trying to find a way of upcycling it. And then the list goes on, but it's been very, very informative, and it allows us again to just focus our efforts. I think we have so many battles that we want to lead forward, but we have to choose which ones to focus on first, and that's why we chose plastic bags to start off with.
Okay, and because this is something that recycling, but from your data in terms of the amount of the thousands of kilos or trash that you collected, how many percent is actually can be upcycled or have value in it, and how many that are completely?
So the ones that have really no value at all is what we call residual. So that will be your diapers, anything that has way more, it's too damaged and too dirty, especially in the mangroves.
Where do they go? What happened to those?
So that's the percentage that we will send to landfill, because currently there's no better solution to that. So that's 30 to 40% of what we collect. And then
That's a lot.
it is a lot, but it's because a lot of our emissions in the cleanups, in the illegal landfills, have so much mud in it that washing it would not be sufficient to be able to recycle it.
Ini mungkin pesannya, jangan buang diaper itu ke sungai,
Yeah,
karena ini
there's a lot.
mencemar, and also it's just polluting basically.
Exactly. So that's the biggest category, and then I would say from every other sorting categories that we sort, we look at a lot at fabrics. So we keep a lot of it in-house until we can find as well a way of upcycling it. And styrofoam is another big one. So I would say 60%. I would say maybe like 40% we can recycle, and then the extra 20% is more like keeping it in house and waiting until we find a better
I like
solution.
to see your house. It must be full of.
It's
full
like
of
a
things.
it's like
Like a mountain of things that, ideas that need to be transformed.
I think we
right?
see possibility in every piece of trash. We see treasure, like the saying goes, treasure in trash.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, we call it trash, but they start off as valuable things.
Exactly, yeah.
It's only trash because we find no use for them and we throw them away. But as long as we can make use of them, actually they're no longer trash. It's something that can be useful.
Exactly. I think the biggest culprit for us in terms of waste category, and I haven't mentioned it yet, is the sachet. So those single-use shampoo serves, and they're made out of multi-layered materials. So that's what makes it impossible to recycle. There have been so many tests done by some of the big companies, universities, and just because of the layout of it, I think there's...
So what do you do with them?
So for now, it's still in-house as well. We're exploring different ways. There's so many startups coming in and saying they have a solution for
these sachets?
Yeah. So.
But I think they should stop,
Oh, that's the
creating
thing. They
these
should
things.
stop. There's so many other ways, like the refill systems, the deposit systems that companies could start putting in place. I think the water gallon deposit system is one that is widely available throughout Indonesia and is working. So if we can apply that to other types of products and liquids, I think that would be it would make a tremendous change.
The dream would be 100, right? All throughout Indonesia. I think throughout the end of the year, we're looking at getting to 10, 15, really scaling it up. Looking at our next region being Bekasi, Ibu Kota,
Yes,
full
definitely.
circle with
Yeah.
Citarum.
Gary, in your operations, tell us a little bit in terms of operations, what it is that you're trying to achieve, and these people, what are they doing, and what are the steps, and in terms of operations, what
Definitely.
is the
So
most...
here, for example, we are really dividing into 30 different types of plastics. We also have brand auditing done here. This is looking at the brands behind the trash. And so, right behind Menjadi is actually sorted all of the plastic bottles dari merek-mereknya. It's been our,
what's the best way of washing?
it's been our biggest bottleneck. Although river trash is already pretty cleaned in comparison to lumpur trash in the mangroves or trash on the beach. Right now we're experimenting with this blower and it's little tanks that are 1 cubic meter. And so every single cubic meter has a different color and plastic type. We wash with this eco soap called Eco Enzyme. It's fermented fruit skins and sugar that we ferment for 3 months. And so all natural. We have a full closed loop water system. And it's like we have a full group of ibus dari Kupang that are owning that station, and they're really behind the washing aspects. And then from there, once it's been washed, dried, shredded, it goes to our production line where we turn plastic into sheets. They're like plastic slabs. At the moment, they're 1 by 1 meter. We can do them different thicknesses, anywhere between 6 millimeters to 3 centimeters in thickness. We have our CNC machine. We work with an amazing designer in-house who's American, Michael Rusak. He just joined the team 3 months ago. And we've been currently building a lot of miniatures before going full scale with it. And we've been doing a lot of tests and experiments, of which this is one.
Okay, when was this set up? How long?
This was set up a year ago.
A year ago. Okay.
So this is our first ever building.
And this is part of Sungai Watch team. Yeah.
Exactly. So a year ago, but with the recycled plastic.
Okay.
So you can
wow,
see
it's
full
amazing.
loop that our trash,
Yeah.
after all of these steps, can turn into a sorting facility or cool furniture.
Well, that's amazing, because I mean you can see like there's sacks full of already sorted trash. How many people are actually involved in this sorting thing? Because it's quite a lot of effort, right? There's quite a lot of steps to go through.
So I think this is the perfect example of what we call our village model. Our village model also can be sponsored by a company. This
Yes, I noticed that it has the name of the sponsor.
Right, so this mangrove station is sponsored by Solgard. They're a New York-based design firm making sustainable travel products. But a facility will have 20 barriers within its region that our team cleans on a daily basis. They bring the trash here, where we have 6 sorters. The trash is sorted the next day from the previous day's collection, and then that trash goes off to our washing station. So it's very much, on a daily basis, cleans 20 barriers, anywhere between, 500 to 2,000 kilos a day, and then that goes on to the next step, washing, and then turn into products.
Okay, and this is a prototype of your sorting station. You've got 7 of these, right?
7 different sizes.
7 different sizes. And tell me about, because obviously this takes up space and that costs, money, and also how and where do you decide to build these sorting stations, and who do you work together with? One of them is obviously, this one is sponsored by, like you said, a company from New York. Tell me a little bit about
the idea,
collaboration.
I think from the very beginning has been, Bali at the core. How do we protect the plastic waves from coming and trashing Bali? We see every year, Bali, the island of plastic. So it's been very focused on cleaning every single river on Bali that will be contributing towards what is happening, which is this yearly phenomenon of Bali trashed. Now, as we're slowly moving out of Bali Bay, we're looking at East Java, so Banyuwangi. It was the natural next step for us, the closest region to Bali. There we work very closely with Ibu Ipuk, the Bupati, Delhaka, PUPR, Pengarean. So really like local stakeholders from the government. Also,
And then they'll be quite receptive.
super receptive. They send troops. When we do big cleanups, they help us with trucks. And they really help us coordinate with the local municipalities. Every single barrier that we place, we need permission from the local desa, from the local chamat.
And do they allow you to use the land for free, or I mean how? Because it does take space, right?
So this year, with Tahura, they've granted us, 3 ara piece of land. Thank you, Pak Ketut Sumandi, who's the
Good
head
job.
of Tahura, to allow us this directly under Kelhaka. But I think, part of our work is really to establish, obviously, sorting trash can smell, can take up space. And I think in the very beginning, it's been fear of, oh, this is trash. We don't want to,
Yes.
we don't, but, actually we're here right now.
Well, it's quite clean.
It
actually,
smells
very
better
well
than
done.
in the mangroves.
Absolutely, and everything is very properly, sorted. So, how many of these do you plan to make in the future, or by the end of the year? Perhaps you have a target.
The dream would be 100, right? All throughout Indonesia. I think throughout the end of the year, we're looking at getting to 10, 15, really scaling it up. Looking at our next region being Bekasi, Ibu Kota,
Yes, definitely.
full circle with
Yeah.
Citarum.
Well, Jabodetabek has, the biggest producer of trash, and and if you've been to Bantar Gebang, it's the collecting of trash and everything. It's a mess. So maybe that would be something that they need.
Bekasi in itself has 4 of the most polluting rivers: Sungai Citarum, Sungai Citarum, Sungai Cijambe. And so really looking at, placing our barriers, cleaning illegal landfill. In Bali, you have beautiful rice fields. In Bekasi, you have TPA legal. And that's something that I think we're very concerned about. And I think really being closer to Ibu Kota to be able to, get a lot more synergies. I think, if we can, this is a super replicable model. And we truly believe that it may take, one key decision maker to allow Sungai Watch to replicate.
Well, this is a great. I think it's a great initiative. Maybe since we're coming to just from you, Sam, and also Gary. The reason why I have you It's because you're very inspirational. I mean, you walk the talk, and the things that you do, the initiatives, the movements, really creating a good impact. Your perhaps aspiration, your message to our viewers, and also to young people like you who care about the environment and who care about the people that,
Definitely.
the
I mean, I
planet
think
that we live in.
within the waste management world, what we would love to see at Sungai Watch is sorting at the household level. If we collect so much recyclable plastics and other materials in the rivers, that shouldn't be there. If we can sort at the household level by plastics, even just separating plastics and organics, that is an amazing first win. And from there we can build up and we can go to the next step, which is sorting into the different types of plastics. But I think a key message to whoever is watching this here in Indonesia, let's start sorting at the household level. We will see drastic change from there. There is so much potential with this material to give it a second life. And so I think that's the key message that I would want to give. And as well, of course, we want our rivers to be clean. Please don't throw your garbage in the rivers. It's a long fight ahead, but I think the three of us are extremely optimistic and hopeful, and this is a very scalable model. So, please support our work. You can sponsor a barrier, you can sponsor a village. There's definitely a lot of work, but I think we're going to get there.
Fantastic, Gary, from your end.
I think
you're going to be rowing on clean rivers in the future, hopefully.
That's the dream, and it really started from a simple idea in our closest river. We started, 2 years ago, and we've seen the impact grow exponentially without any funding, just with this one idea and this persistence. And I think that if the youth out there, anak muda yang nonton, kita harus bergerak dari satu ide aja. We have to focus. We are destroying our planet so quickly. The mangroves that we just saw, tomorrow they'll be polluted again. This is just one area out of so many in Indonesia. And this plastic battle, this war on plastic, I think we can win it in our lifetime. But we need this to become a revolution. We need every young person to care and to start, to stop with their own to look themselves in the mirror. And it starts, yesterday.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Kita harus gaspol semua.
Harus gaspol semua, dan sebenarnya sampah-sampah mikroplastik juga sudah ada dalam tubuh kita dan kita tidak tahu ya dampaknya terhadap kesehatan. Kelly, final words from you. If they want to support, if they want to donate, perhaps how and where can they go and what can they do? Because I'm sure there'll be lots of young people, or even old people, hopefully as well, want to support both financially and in terms of their time and energy to Sungai Watch.
In terms of all the information about what we do, I think our website is the best platform. It's www.sungaywatch.com, and that's
www.sungaywatch.com.
That's where you can donate. That's where you can also see our impact report, where we really go into all of our missions. In terms of our most active social platforms, we have Instagram and TikTok. So it really has all of the visuals and the feel-good stories that we were trying to share widely. And in terms of last few words, I think we always hear what can we do on an individual basis? How is my little small step going to change the world? And I think it's back to what both Gary and Sam were saying, is that it's a change should have happened yesterday. We're consuming so much on a daily basis. It's very much every choice that you make from a consumption point of view, how you drink your water, how you consume your food. There's so many alternatives now that it's not an excuse to always just go with the most simple and convenient way. The cheapest way, I think, if you have a few options and you're in that position that you can choose, please start being more mindful about the most sustainable options. And it's really much just a step-by-step process. You don't have to change and become zero waste starting tomorrow, but it's a very doable thing. And I think if we all start being more conscious of what we consume, then that in itself will...
That's a great message. We have to really look at our own habits and our own individual action. Kelly, Gary and Sam, keluarga Bencheghib, luar biasa. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, your effort, and you've been very, very inspirational. I am inspired. It always, bikin merinding kalau ketemu dengan anak-anak muda yang mereka tidak hanya ngomong, bicara, komplain, tapi melakukan sesuatu, dan yang dilakukan itu memiliki dampaknya. Tapi ada pesan yang sangat penting. Sebenarnya kalau masalah sampah itu mulai dari diri kita sendiri. Apa yang kita lakukan setelah kita menggunakan satu produk? Di mana kita membuangnya? Yang jelas jangan membuang sampah sembarangan, apalagi membuang membuangnya ke sungai, karena ini bukan akan saja mencemari ya lingkungan hidup dan akan masuk ke laut, tapi mencemari semua kehidupan yang ada di situ, termasuk diri kita sendiri. Sekali lagi terima kasih. Insight with Desi Anwar kali ini berada di Bali Denpasar, dan Anda juga bisa dapat menyaksikan acara ini di cnnindonesia.com dan juga di YouTube CNN Indonesia, Insight with Desi Anwar. Thank you, stay safe, bye bye.